This week on the Unabated podcast, gambling legend Frank B joins the show to talk about casino APing, the transition to sports betting, and so much more. It's a great show. Let's get to it.
If the guy goes unabated, that's the new word, unabated. That's too big a word. That's like mayonnaise. I'm assuming that's the biggest word I know.
Hello, everyone, and welcome on into the Unabated podcast. I'm Thomas Viola, and joining me, as always, Mr. Unabated himself, Captain Jack Andrews. Jack, I've got the new background going. We are officially moved into the new place. I'm feeling good, and the most important thing, every single box has been unpacked. Everything has been set up, and I will not have to do any of that over Bet Bash like I did last year, which was a horrible decision.
I recall that. I remember it's the time of year when, you're a renter, you have to switch properties.
Yep.
I'm impressed, Tom. Like, that's a lot of work to get done, and it looks good.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the new place.
Very excited. Still out here in Las Vegas and excited to be bringing you guys to town this week. Next week. Bet Bash is here again. And I think my liver has just recovered in time from last year's.
Yes, it's a gauntlet. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I'll use all the analogies.
Yeah.
We're going to republish our guide to Bet Bash and update it a little bit this week for people that might have missed that last year, because Bet Bash is an experience, and I have a few tips for people as they approach Bet Bash.
Yeah. My biggest tip, make sure you get like some throat lozenges or cough drops or something, because you're going to be losing your voice by the end of it. That's for sure.
Definitely. Hydration is also key, right? Like there's going to be so many opportunities where you might overindulge and might forget to mix in the water throughout the night. And when you wake up that next morning, it hurts.
But a good tip for those that do find themselves in need of that emergency hydration, they should find one of us from the Unabated team, because we will be handing out these little Unabated hydration packets here to help you fight off that hangover. And let me tell you, some people are going to be they're going to be banging down your door, Jack, at 6 a.m. on day one, when they're like, I had too much to drink and I have to be at the golf course in half an hour. They're going to want those for sure.
Yeah, so this is a great idea we've had headed into this Bet Bash, is hand out these basically like Pedialyte packets where they refresh your electrolytes, and it's more substantial than just downing some water. You just mix them into like 8 ounces of water, I think it is.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings you back to life. In the article that we're going to refresh, I talk about doing half of one before you go to bed, if you can remember, and then the other half when you wake up. And to me, it's always been a hangover cure. I always travel with little Pedialyte packets, so we figure, well, let's spread the love around. We've got a lot of these, and we'll pass them out to people as we see them on some of those early morning days.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be very popular indeed. But speaking of popular, we've got a really great guest coming up on the show here today, Jack. We're going to be talking to Frank B. And I'm very excited because we don't talk about the casino side nearly as much, which is very understandable given we are a sports betting podcast. But casino APing is very much a great gateway drug into sports betting. And he is somebody who has gone on to do both incredibly well. I'm excited to be speaking to him about everything that he has done.
Yeah, so I'll say this about Frank B. I've mentioned this before. He is the professional gambler's professional gambler. He is the professional sports bettor's sports bettor. Like, he is just a guy who it's great to model yourself after. The first time I ever met Frank B, I was introduced to him, and the person said, "This is Frank B. He has a license to print money," and it's true. Like, the guy has always been at the cutting edge of a lot of different stuff, a lot of different plays, ideas on what comes next in the industry. I pride myself on that being my thing, is I'm always looking to the future, but I'm looking to the future, and a lot of times it's a trail that's blazed by Frank B. So I'm really excited to have him on the program. He's one of my mentors, somebody I've looked up to for a lot of years. So this is going to be a good interview.
I don't think we should delay it a second more, Jack. I think it's time to bring on Frank.
Let's do it.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on into the show, professional sports bettor, professional gambler, and as Jack calls him, just plain old OG, Frank B, here with us today. Frank, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Nice to be with you.
We got plenty to talk about here today, but I want to get started by saying, Frank, you came to sports betting after establishing yourself in casino advantage play. That's a track that might sound familiar to people who have maybe listened to this show once or twice here from someone else that's on it, right, Jack? Now, walk us through your evolution and how casino play influenced your career as a bettor.
Okay, well, yes, I did start playing blackjack. I'm from back east, and I started in Atlantic City. And as luck would have it, and this is like a much bigger factor in who ends up being a professional gambler more than anything else. It's how you run initially. And I ran good in Atlantic City. There's certainly a bunch of guys out there that they tried to gamble professionally or attacking it seriously, ran bad and just gave it up. Could have been great gamblers. But anyway, I ran good. It quickly started to make the plans to get out to Vegas, go out to the big city and see if I could make it there. I'm not going to say a rough couple of years because those were the best learning years, but it was then when I moved to Vegas that I learned about all the other different casino games and changed the mindset from just trying to beat blackjack to trying to beat anything and everything in the casino where there was a edge could be detected. And that was the best move that I could have possibly made in preparing for sports betting, because sports betting is, if you were to choose which one should you start with, casino betting or casino advantage play or sports betting, I would say the casino side, because with that, there is a verifiable edge that you can prove on paper. Sports betting, there's a lot of subjectivity. You start out good, you think you're better. Poker also applies to that too. When you start out, there's people that start out well playing poker and sports betting. They think they're really good at it, and they don't have the basics down. And eventually, the other shoe drops. So I went out to Vegas and learned everything I could, and it only took a couple of years before things started to roll. And then for the sports betting to kick in, one of those things that I discovered early on was how lucrative EV wise the contests were out there at the time. Totally different than it is now. They were, we're talking huge edges. A, because they gave away a lot more than they took in, and B, because there were strategies available to you that just gave you, a huge advantage over the rest of the field. So I won in pretty rapid succession 4 or 5 contests in like a 5-year period. And one of them was, a 6-figure hit at the station, where just coincidentally, that whole concept of the taking advantage of the rules, I got most losers intentionally in the contest. And the prize field was split 55-45, but only about 10-15% of the people went for a loser. So you had a big overlay. And so that set me off to where I had money so I could pursue just about anything I wanted to at the time. And, it just grew from there and got me more interested in sports.
You really did hit the nail on the head. Something that I tell people all the time, because I see 2 different types of people really sign up for demos to go and walk through the stuff that we have for them in Unabated. By the way, if you want a demo of your own, use the link in the description of this video. Just saying, I'll walk you through the tools. But the 2 kinds of people I meet, you got the one kind that are, yeah, I saw you guys on Blackjack Apprenticeship. I saw Jack on a YouTube video, something like that. I'm a casino player. I come from an AP background. And the other type are the usual, I watch a lot of sports, so I figure I want to start betting on them and make some money on it. And I tell people every time, I would much rather you not know anything about sports betting and come to us from the casino AP background, because you already have that knowledge of EV and of the concepts and of the idea of the law of large numbers and what you're actually trying to do with sports betting other than just picking winners. Right, Jack?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. I found some of our best audience are the people that come from a card counting background, for exactly why Frank said that, because they get taught there's a right way and there's a wrong way. And you use that as your building block for going to sports betting, where sometimes there's a little bit of gray in there as to the right way and the wrong way. Sometimes the wrong way can be the right way in certain situations. But when you come with that building block, it helps build that basic strategy of sports betting. Frank, a couple months ago, we had Matthew David Al on the podcast. Gina conducted that interview. It's great. Anyone who hasn't listened to it should go back and find that episode. But one of the questions she asked him, and I thought was a great question, is what is the basic strategy of sports betting? So how would you answer that? What is your basic strategy of sports betting?
Well, okay, so this would be your basic strategy would change slightly as you progress, you become better at it. But so this is advice for those that are like in the early stages of their AP pursuit, and that is you have a couple of things. One of them definitely is to concentrate on racking up EV with a much lesser concern for the actual result of any single event. You just want to rack up EV. In fact, when you keep track of your results, as you should when you're starting out, the primary column should be your EV. Secondary column should be your result, and you should give much more weight to your EV column, because that in the long run is what's going to carry the day. And then the second thing would be, again, when you're starting out, two things. Or it's actually one thing: target and punish weakness. You want to target your opposition's weakness, and you want to punish them. As long as what that means is you want to spend time seeking out advantageous situations, and when you find them, I forget what writer wrote this way back when. It might have been a poker guy. When you have the best of it, make the most of it. And but that's what you should be concentrating on, not trying to be the best poker player in a tough poker game. You just want to be the best poker player in a weak game, because you're just going to make a lot more money. And so I would say definitely concentrate on EV over results, and concentrate on scouting, information gathering, target weakness, punish weakness.
It sounds like advice from like The Art of War or something. But I
Well,
mean, I'm sure.
listen, I've always maintained that the guys who do best in professional gambling, they're just competing in a different arena. A lot of them were competitive athletically before. This is just another way to compete. And I know some guys that are sick. The same guys. They are sick competitive. They don't want to lose at anything. And this is just another way to keep those competitive juices going and continue to be, in a competitive way. So, yeah.
So a lot of today's sports betting APs came to sports betting from something else. They were maybe DFS players, or maybe they were just sports fans, as we kind of talked about. But if you were to meet a sports betting AP, and next week is Bet Bash, I know you're going to be at Bet Bash, so you're going to meet a lot of aspirational sports betting APs who are probably, once they figure out who you are and your background, they're probably going to ask you about casino advantage play. So what would you tell them about a sports betting player who wants to get involved in casino AP?
Well, like we discussed earlier, I think that the transition the other way around is going to be easier. But okay, so you're going from sports to casino play. I would say, keep a few things in mind. Keep it simple. Look for your cherry pick, your low hanging fruit. Look for those advantageous situations, and I think that when you start to get involved with the casinos as opposed to the sports books, you have to have the mindset. Always keep in mind that as we've been discussing, this is an adversarial relationship, okay? And regardless, because what I would recommend, specific activity is get involved with marketing would be one of them, and then some other things in the machine area versus going to the tables, because those are the easier things to master. And your EV on the back end with the marketing is just so strong. But never forget that I don't want to use the word enemy. What about that's the opposition. And regardless of what shows up in your mailbox, how nice the casino host is to you, how welcome you feel at any time, understand that as soon as you start to win and it becomes obvious that you are not worth it, things are going to change dramatically. So you don't let your guard down and you start talking too much, and you start, you have to be aware. In the casino, they can see what you're doing. Sports, you're sitting in front of a screen, you're kind of, making moves to make things not so obvious. But in the casino, you can give yourself away very easily. And so you want to always be aware. that when the casino is the opposition, and never start to think that they like you or that you can get away with this or that without them reacting, because they will.
Now, when it comes to people who want to get their start in casino APing, maybe are coming from that sports background, are there any resources that you recommend people turning to for something that could be as close to an unabated like education in casino APing?
Yeah, well, Unabated for sports clearly is, I've told Jack this before in the past. I turned my son on about, it's a little more than a year ago. He is now a self-sufficient sports bettor, and I started him out in the AP in the casinos with something similar to what I just described. But he has taken, like, he's young, he's full of energy and full of enthusiasm. So, he really took to it. But yeah, so like an unabated version online, I really don't have that for casino play. I guess the Wizard of Oz has a good repository of information, but I would look. My friend and partner in many endeavors is Anthony Curtis. He has a publishing company in Las Vegas for 30 plus years, Huntington Press, and any good gambling book is going to be going through him and being published by him. He's published many sports books, machine books, tons of blackjack books, poker books, and that's the one place you can go and get information on any game you want to learn to play correctly, because those books have been vetted and edited by professional gamblers. I'm helping them with a couple of books right now.
That is awesome. I mean, how feasible is it to do sports betting and casino AP together? You're doing it, your son's doing it. If they feel like they're going hand in hand, and I know that I'm preaching to the choir here on this show.
Yeah, well, I would say, trying to do both at the same time is daunting. Just doing sports betting alone these days is a full-time job. And I would say, again, keep it simple. Target the things that do not require you to be at a specific place at a specific time. Jack, I'm sure he'll testify to this. And the worst thing you could do is probably some kind of video poker thing where you're like my definition of torture is playing a video poker progressive. There's nothing that is, there's nothing I'd rather not do than get involved. So I don't agree to do that kind of stuff anymore. So I would recommend you target things that you can come and go and do them at your leisure on your own schedule, and not be, a slave to the clock. Because we're already like that with the sports schedule. The NFL is the most forgiving of those, because it has sort of a work week to it. You can schedule days off, but even do baseball, it's relentless. It's all day, every day. And, it's, that's a whole different animal. And I wouldn't want to try to tackle casino stuff at the same time.
So next week, we'll both be in Las Vegas for Beth Bash. I'm going to ask you a question that most APs wouldn't answer this, but what are you doing when you're in Vegas? Are you going to be focusing on sports? Are you going to be, scouting around casinos? What's your week going to be like for AP?
Well, because I spend so little time in Vegas these days, I lived there for 30 years, and then I moved away 4 years ago. So I only come in for I'm there less than 2 months a year now. And this actually not this time of year. Pre-football, I come in, and then we all get together for the blackjack ball, which this year is bundled together with Bet Bash, I guess. So I'm going to be there, and a lot of people are going to be there that I haven't seen, since the last event. So it'll be a lot of socializing versus running around and doing things. But I'll keep it simple wherever I'm staying. I'm staying downtown, staying on the Strip. I'll do these things where I can take advantage of whatever is available. But I don't have any scheduled, any big plans to do a lot of big gambling. And at this time of year for betting on sports, there's not a lot going on for me, other than preparing for the NFL season. Sign up for the contest, that kind of thing.
Are you planning on killing any time at the slot machines?
The slot machines, yeah. Well, as has become a thing, it wasn't like that when I started out, where you could just make money just by being able to recognize advantages on slot machines as you walk by. Yes, you can't help notice these things. And when you're cruising through, you make yourself a little route, and you go through and you pick up whatever money is there to be had, and then you move on. But I'm not hanging around in the casino, hours on end, stalking and hawking slot machines. But yes, I will do a little bit of that.
Now, my understanding is, of course, there was a really big jackpot, a $2.1 million jackpot got hit in town
Yeah.
here in Vegas at the Palms a couple weeks ago on one of the Wheel of Fortune machines. And there's an interesting story in that involving you here, isn't there, Frank?
Well, I guess it's a curiosity that I was staying at the Palms, and so when I would be walking in and out, you take the long way through and you check everything on the way out, pick up a little on the way. So Wheel of Fortune, that particular version, is one where you can quickly check it and deduce that there is an advantageous play there. And these plays last 5, 10. That particular one could last a little longer, but usually about 10 minutes. I played the thing for 5 to 10 minutes. I noticed it. I go, all right, that adds up. I'll play that because it fulfills the criteria. And you play it until it no longer fulfills the criteria, which is exactly what I did. Made a little bit of money, got up and walked away. Come to find out, a couple hours later, I get a message. Oh, look at this Wheel of Fortune hit, and it's a picture of a machine. And my friend says it's at the Palms. I go, wow, I just played that bank. Was it machine number 2 or 3? Those are the ones I played. He goes, yeah, it was machine number 2. And I go, I was on that, and it was the exact denomination, the exact machine, and I played it 3 hours later. And I'll tell you the truth, the 2.1 million, until he told me that lady hit it, I didn't know the meter was there because it doesn't factor into the criteria. It has nothing to do with how you deduce whether the machine is worth a short play or not. It doesn't factor in at all. So yes, lightning struck her. And when a couple of friends found out that I had just got off that machine within the last couple of hours, like, oh my God, aren't you just going crazy? I'm like, no, I'm not. Because I wouldn't have been playing it. I play it until it's no longer playable, and then I'm gone. She put $3, she did a $3 spin and she got 2 million. Good for her, and but yeah, it's not something that I regret. It's just an interesting story.
So we'll put the picture of that jackpot. It was actually Paulie Howard from VSiN was the one that tweeted about it. I think that's who you talked to, right? You know
Right,
Mitch and
right.
Paulie pretty well. You do their show. So yeah, we'll put a picture for the video version of this podcast so you guys can see what that jackpot was. The woman that hit it was waiting for her order from McDonald's, I believe you said, and she just had a few
Yeah.
bucks in there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's right around the corner from McDonald's, that bank. And while she's waiting, however they do the thing, they call your number. And she played, and she had $3.46 in the machine when she hit that last spin, leaving here with 46, which caused a lot of people on Twitter to think that there was a malfunction. That, oh, how do you hit that for 46 cents? And they don't understand. No, she spent the $3 on her last spin, and she got there on that spin. And I'll tell you what, another thing, when you see the picture, if you look across the top, there are 5 different numbers. And not to go into too much detail, but if those 5 numbers add up to a certain amount, then it's a play. When it doesn't add up to that amount, when it's less, then it's not a play. And she wasn't playing at an advantage. Well, I guess I don't take away the statewide jackpot, but yeah, that's when I played it, it looked a little different until I knocked one of those columns out. But again, God bless her. I'm actually glad it went to some stranger that's on vacation, because when it happens to a contemporary of yours, you're like, oh my God, then you are like, why does he get so lucky? You really don't want to see that. I'd rather see just a regular player get.
Right. Yeah. You don't get jealous of some recreational player that hits
No.
it. You get jealous of a sharp that, takes that one down. Okay. Switching gears a little, Frank. You're a big proponent of both mental health and physical health when it comes to this business we've chosen. You've actually said to me one-on-one many times that I need to focus on my health, and I appreciate your concern. You've helped me a great deal with that. I still got a ways to go. But your advice is really good, and I'd love to have it shared with a larger audience. So can we just take a couple minutes here and talk about your approach to both mental and physical health when it comes to trying to also be a full-time advantage player focusing on sports betting?
Sure, it's my favorite subject these days. So yeah, like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years, and the first 10 years were in the casino, and that was when I was in my 30s. And then the next 10 years was sitting at just like you guys, sitting in a chair, staring at a screen 10 hours a day, just about every day. And I'll tell you what, that takes its toll in a number of different ways, and some of them are a bit insidious because you don't realize that it's happening to you. But all those hours in the chair, that's not good for you physically. All those hours staring at a screen, that's not good for you in a couple of different ways, physically and mentally. And and then from there, it kind of snowballs. The other bad habits. I mean, first off, eating bad. I've really gotten into changing the way I learning about food and changing the way I eat. But how many guys sit there and eat their meals in front of the screen? A lot. Okay. How many guys really opt for convenience over putting a little bit of thought into what they like? We know guys, mutual friends, they only eat fast food. The guy, Matt Humans, he's a freak of nature at this point, and he swears he doesn't eat anything green, and he only eats fast food. That's it. I mean, I know he's exaggerating a bit, but that's his primary menu.
I don't think he's exaggerating that much. I heard he freezes
I know
ribs.
I've hung out with that guy, and he's like, "Oh, I only slept 4 hours last night." I go, "Wow, that's a bad." And he goes, "No, that's what I normally do." I'm like, "Okay." And I always like to draw the car analogy that your body is like a car. Right off the showroom floor, you can do just about anything you want to it for a few years. You can run it hard. You can not maintain it. And it's going to hang in there for 6, 7, 8 years. But then the difference between the car that lasts 20 years and the car that lasts 10 or 12 is what you did initially. How bad did you beat it up initially? How bad did you wear it down? Those things eventually come around, and you got to pay the price. You got to get a new car. And in this case, you start to break down, and things start to go wrong. And now you got medical issues that you have to address. And I know this is the thing I get the most pushback on, this particular topic, from guys that bet sports, because it's like they have to defend what they do. Fear of missing out. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I'm like, well, if you just establish a little balance in life, in particular when you get up in the morning, like whenever I meet a person that's in the same field as we are, one of the first things I ask them, like, what's the first thing you do in the morning? How does your morning go? Because I want to, just get an idea. And if you jump out of bed and you sit down in front of the screen, I know you think it's important. I know you think I got to get back. I'm going to miss out on this, but you're on a path that could go wrong way before you're ready for it. So I would just stress, try to establish a little balance, pay a little more attention to what you eat, and take breaks. Get up and get outside for a while. We got a huge vitamin D deficiency problem in this country, and staying indoors, never getting out, and just being a slave to the computer and the chair I understand it. You don't want to give up the EV. No one wants to miss out, but it's your implied odds for your life, and you don't want to sell that short just because you want to make sure that you don't miss anything on the 5-inning lines.
It's very true. I mean, like Jack says, I'm the one who gets all of the shipments of Unabated t-shirts and any of the merch that we give out. I've still got plenty of mediums and smalls in the box, but I'm running out of XXLs. I'll tell you that much.
Well, yeah. I have friends, and I watch them, and I think we all kind of knew who Dink was if we didn't know him personally. Alan Dickinson. And I used to, when we get together with him, he couldn't tear himself away from the phone, because not only did he do all that during the day, we go out, he's sitting there sweating everything. Now there's no purpose there's no good reason to do that. And it just stresses you out, and it turns you can't, release that attention from the screen just for a little while to socialize. People bring the phones to dinner and everything. I mean, young people got it really bad, in my opinion, because a lot of them that are just becoming sports betting age, they don't know life without the phone. They don't, they don't understand. We just would go outside and do stuff, or we'd be in the casino, but we weren't. Jack, how long ago was it when we couldn't even bring phones, whip a phone out and do this in the casino? It wasn't that long ago.
Right.
I've had Jay Carnegie come up to me and say, "Hey, you got to put that away," because I was in the Westgate trying to do this. 2 years later, it's like that line in the movie. You can't stop what's coming. Okay. And, so these young people today, and I'll call it that, if their addiction to their phone. I mean, people walk into traffic these days. They won't take their eye off the screen to cross the street. And, it's becoming, it's more than a problem. And so all the time you spend away from a screen is good time spent, in my opinion.
I
I def
always thought that once Bally's was getting back into the casino ownership and the sports betting, I wish they would have rolled in Bally's Total Fitness back into sports betting. You know, a line of gyms where you can sweat your bet, literally, I thought would have taken
That's a
off,
good,
but
that's a good PR
not
thing.
so
Yeah.
much. They've kept them separate.
we've got to get
I know
a
I sound like a wet blanket with this stuff too, and old guy, get off my lawn and all that. But listen, I've been there. I'm 60 years old now, and the last 10 years I've had to make a lot of changes in order to remedy some of the damage that was done sitting in the chair for 10 years.
But
Well,
it's true. Everything you're saying is spot on. I mean, on that point particularly, my mom says the same thing. She's like, mate, take care of yourself while you're young. It's going to pay you back when you're older. It's a lot harder to get there
Yeah,
when you're already getting up there in age rather than if you just build the good habits when you're young. And I've certainly tried to do that, but you're spot on. I'm one of those millennials who's addicted to their phone. I look at my screen. It gives me my screen time report every Sunday, and I die a little bit inside when I'm like, I'm on this thing way too much. This is awful. It.
yeah.
I completely agree with everything you're saying here, and I know Adam Levitan has been big in the industry talking about some of the things too. Like he just got a colonoscopy a little bit before you're supposed to need it. But I have a feeling for a lot of our audience, you're probably getting around to that time. Go take care of yourself. Go to the doctor. Like try and find a general practice doctor. Make sure you're on top of all this stuff because yeah, we're in an industry that has a lot of bad habits that kind of lend themselves really well to it.
yeah.
Yeah, and like get outside. That's the
Mhm.
biggest thing. Just get outside. It doesn't matter, even if it's cold. Get out there. I mean, I was in Vegas for 4 or 5 days. I arrived, and I was supposed to stay all the way through our events that take you into the latter part of August. I'm in California. I drove to California yesterday. I'm at Manhattan Beach. I'm going to go into the ocean when we're done here because I couldn't take it anymore. It was just, besides it being 115 degrees every day in Vegas right now, or at
It
least
do
it
be
was
hot.
last week. But yeah, I mean, you couldn't, between the traffic and the smoke and the people and the crowds and just being indoors all the time and nothing to do outside because of the heat, I just had to get out of there. And I feel better after 24 hours, honestly.
You heard it here,
So
guys. Go to Manhattan Beach. That's the move.
Frank, the reason I brought this up is because you've always been, in my opinion, a trailblazer. You're kind of the bettor's better, in my opinion. And so when you've approached me about health and mental health and physical health, I listened because you've always been somebody who's been ahead of the game. And if Frank's going to tell me this, then it's worth listening to. So that's why I wanted to bring it up here. Now, Frank, you don't keep a high profile on social media. You have a
No.
Twitter account. We put it on the screen there at Ties Win, but you don't tweet a whole lot. But where can people find your work as well as maybe some upcoming things that you're involved in case they want to kind of learn more about Frank B?
Well, I kind of lay low outside of football season, but football season approaching, so I'll be doing some of the thing. I do some of those VSiN shows a few times a year, and I'm more active online. I guess at this time of year, I don't. I think I have less than 200 tweets in my lifetime since I signed up for Twitter, so I don't tweet a whole lot. But I've written a lot in the past. And this was, I don't know how far it goes back. Some of it is still available on Gambling with an Edge, and the other one, the rest of it is available through. There's another way to get at the links for articles I've read, but I'm also helping one of my friends, Blair Rodman, is a World Series of Poker bracelet winner, and who made the transition from sports and casinos. I mean, from poker and casinos to sports, and he's writing a very elementary sports book for people looking to start out, and I'm helping them. I'm contributing a couple of chapters, so we're in the middle of editing that, and we're hoping that's out for football season. The whole book publishing process is a long, arduous thing, but we're working on it as we speak. To get it to the printer, hopefully within the next month. So between a little bit online, a little bit stuff like this, and maybe a book coming out. I'm around, but like you say, I try to stay after the whole rant about being in front of the screen. I try to stay off, as much as possible.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to stop by and talk with us. And hopefully we can be bringing you back in here to talk about the new book once it is out. But thank you so much for being here, Frank. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on again.
No, and my pleasure anytime with you guys, because like I said, it's you were a big assist in getting my son, who kind of was wondering what he was going to do. He saw what I was doing. He always wanted to, but his education ramped up exponentially when I introduced him to Unabated, and it really has been the number one thing for him to get him going from somebody who's interested with the right mindset to somebody who's a self-sufficient gambler now. So anytime, guys.
There's no more
Great.
ringing endorsement than that right there. Frank, once again, thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you all so much for listening to the show. If you want to check out everything that Unabated has to offer, just like Frank's son did, sign up for a demo today. Use the link in the description of this video. I'll sit down with you one-on-one to walk you through the tools and show you everything that we have to offer to help make you a profitable sports bettor. And as always, thank you so much for listening and watching the show. You know the drill. If you like the show, tell your friends. If you didn't like us, tell your enemies. Trick them into listening to us instead. Hit us with that 5-star rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. And as always, let's cash some tickets. We'll see you next week, everyone.